And while we're reviewing these three cars, three deer just happened to be moseying by. There's the G-Body 996 and there's the 997 deer. Very symbolic for this car review we're doing today on the 996. Amazing. Hey, good afternoon guys, and welcome back to Realty Rides. Today we're going to compare three different type of 911 models. The first one is going to be a 1983 911’S, and then we're going to work our way up to the 1998 introduction of the 996, and we're going to be reviewing a 2001 996 today, and then we'll work our way up to the 997, which was the replacement of the 996 a little bit later on in 2005. So hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks again for watching Realty Rides this afternoon. So again, this is the 1983 911’S. This happens to be the Cabriolet. This is the G-Body. So from 1964 till around 1991, Porsche had this body style, which is essentially the body style of the G-Body. The early 911s, the long hoods. This car here with the 5-mile-per-hour bumpers. This happens to be the SC model from 78 through 83. This car is a wonderful automobile. It is an air-cooled and oil-cooled car. This was the original 911 concept from back in the early 60s. Was the original 911 concept from back in the early 60s and 70s. And of course, this then was later on replaced with the 993, which had a little bit of a different type of body style to it. That was kind of reminiscent to the modern style that we have today, and of course that was followed by, in 1998, with the introduction of the very controversial and very polarizing 996 model, which we'll be reviewing here in a few minutes. So in 1998, Porsche came out, introduced the new water-cooled car, and that was the 996. This was also shared with the Boxter model, which was the smaller two-seater compact convertible car. This 996 is a 2001. This car, when it first came out, it was ridiculed by the purists. They thought Porsche had lost its way and went away from the original beautiful body style of the 60s and 70s and 80s of the G-Body with the round headlights to these headlights here that they shared also with the Boxster entry-level 911 entry-level Porsche. And they, of course, later on, they started out with yellow here in the plastic. They went to clear plastic here on the later models. But this car had a really, really rocky start. Porsche was losing money in the early 2000s and the late 90s, early 2000s. Not quite sure exactly what to do in terms of transforming from the very, very historic air-cooled, water-cooled car, air-cooled, oil-cooled car to this new water-cooled car. And they kind of made a few mistakes. I personally think that the rear end of the 996 is actually very attractive. It's a beautiful car from the back. The headlights have grown on me for over the years. I don't think it's a bad looking car at all now. It's actually kind of a nice contrast to the traditional typical 911 look. Actually, I think on some level these headlights actually look pretty good. But you know, in the beginning this was not accepted really well with the Porsche aficionados, which of course I was one of them. I still am. But like I said in the video, these cars are now getting a resurgence of new consumers and new enthusiasts, making them into overlanders and safari bills, and giving these cars a new breath of fresh air like they really deserve. The 996, interesting car, and of course that was replaced in 2005 when Porsche went back to its original concept of the traditional Porsche look with the 997. So in 2005, the Porsche came out and replaced the 996 body style with the 997. So you can see the difference from the front end. It has a completely different front fender. Of course, it has different headlights. It looks completely different than the 996. It also has a wider trunk. But the engine is still relatively the same. It's the Metzger M96 engine. The 2006 car we have here happens to be a 3.6 liter car, and it's generating about 325 horsepower. Actually, our car is a little bit modified, so it's actually more of an S model. So, but in any event, this car has a lot more power. This happens to be an all-wheel drive Carrera 4S. It's an all-wheel drive 997. It's an absolutely beautiful car. It came. The body style for the 997, I think, is a lot more attractive than the 996, although it does share the rear end slightly with the taillights and such, but I think that the 997 is a much more improved model. It handles better, it's more powerful, it's got more style to it, and I think that Porsche, made the right decision by transforming the controversial 996 to the 997 body style, which, by the way, the 997 now with the turbo models and the GT3 models are commanding top dollars because of the nice kind of in-between look between the 991 and the 996. It's just the right size. The 991 and the 992 that have come out have become too large. The 997 is still a relatively compact car. It shares a kind of this body style and the size with the original G body, the compactness, the analog feel, but overall I think it's just a beautiful automobile. And here's also one of the big differences between the 996 and the 997. You can see that the console and the interior is completely different. It shares it with the Boxster, whereas the 997, they went back to the original 5 dials, individual dials. The cockpit setup is much more analog and much more intuitive. It's more sculpted, more beautiful, and I just think it's an overall nicer looking car. But that is the three different car types of Porsches: the original G-body 911 SE, the 996, and we have, of course, the 997. So what is the 2001 996 Porsche like to drive? Well, this car has the Tiptronic automatic, and it's kind of, I hate to say this, but it's kind of underwhelming. Even though it has 296 horsepower, 3.4 liter flat 6 engine, water cooled. It's not a slow car, but it's not exactly a breathtaker either. The 997 that we have is a lot more planted, a lot faster. It just feels like a real sports car. It's got the 6-speed manual transmission. It has a stainless exhaust. This car is a standard stock Carrera, and it's a wonderful car for what it is. I mean, when Porsche came out in '98 with the 1998 or 1999 model of the 996, like I said before, it was ridiculed. It was a polarizing car. The purists didn't like it. It shared too many components with the base model entry-level Boxster at the time. It was a car that wasn't well received, and like I said in my description, I think that Porsche kind of lost its way. They weren't doing well financially, and they had to take out the parts bin to share parts with the Boxster with this car, and vice versa. And of course, the fried egg headlights back in the early models that had the yellow with the clear plastic. 2000 model like this one, they got rid of that yellow, and now it's just clear because Porsche realized what mistake they made. But overall, you know, it took a long time for it to develop a following, and of course then later on the IMS issues came out with the intermediate shaft bearing, where if it wasn't replaced, the shaft would give out and seize, and the car had catastrophic engine failure. So that's an easy remedy for this car. When you change your clutch, you can get the IMS updated and changed as well, and there's usually no more problems after that. That's about a $2,000 or $3,000 fix. But the initial, it only happens to a small amount of the 996 models, including some of the 997s, the early models of the 997 that came after this car. But the IMS is not really such a big problem anymore. It wasn't even a big problem from the very beginning because it only affected about 10% of the cars. And like I said, on these earlier models, it was actually easy to fix. And this car comes with the Tiptronic and the 6-speed manual. And the Tiptronic was the predecessor to the now very popular and very well received PDK transmission that Porsche has in its newer models that came out with the 997.2 back in 2010. But this Tiptronic is, you know, it's okay. You put it in manual mode and you have these little paddle shifters here on the steering wheel. But I'm not even going to do that because I just like the car right now in automatic. It drives nice and smooth. For the sake of this video, I just want to kind of just enjoy the drive. This is actually my first time in a 996. I've videotaped many of them before, but I've never actually driven one. I've driven the Boxter, and the Boxter is really the early Boxster, not the newer ones, but the early Boxsters are really underwhelming. But you know, but like I said, this car is now becoming really popular now with a certain cult of owner, and which is, I shouldn't even say cult, a following of owner, and that is the overlander people and the guys that are making these cars into safari builds, which is really an interesting concept in and of itself. The overlander guys are putting snow tires on these wheels, on these tires, and they're putting roof racks on and fog lamps, and they're driving these cars in all sorts of inclement weather and snow and rain and ice, driving them all over the country. And because they're not expensive cars to begin with, people are not nervous about losing the value and making these cars just drivable, fun automobiles like they should be. And then the safari guys are actually putting these cars, lifting the structure of the car from the bottom, the foundation up, or the chassis I should say, and they're putting gigantic Jeep tires on, fog lamps, you know, roof racks on top, and they're making these cars into off-road vehicles and all terrain and really kind of, you know, like Mad Max urban city dweller cars. And I think that's a really kind of a cool concept too. They've done that with the G bodies, and they're doing that also with the 997s. And of course Porsche has the brand new Dakar that's out right now. That's their version of a safari build. But back in a few years ago, when these cars were starting to gain a following with the overlander people and the off-roaders, this is actually a really good foundation to have that type of build on it. So this is the 996. I'm glad you guys, I hope you guys liked the video. This car is for sale here at Cooper Automotive here on Whidbey Island. And like I said, it's great for what it is. It's not an expensive car. It's a great entry-level Porsche if you've never owned a 911 before. It drives really well. It's not a fast car, but it's not a slow car either. You know, it is what it is. It's a 996. You can do a lot of things with it. It's a great foundation to make the car completely your own. And I enjoy driving it. I enjoyed reviewing this and comparing it to the 997 and the original G-body car. So, hope you guys liked the video, guys. Have a Memorial Day weekends coming up next week. Have a great weekend. Thanks again for watching and supporting Realty Rides. And we'll see you guys on the next ride. See you guys later. Bye, guys.